Commander Jake Miller adjusted his uniform collar as the Earth Coalition vessel Starlight approached the massive space station. The station hung in space like a glittering metal flower, its many docking arms extended outward to welcome ships from across the galaxy. This was humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Council, and Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Lisa Grant. The ship's xenobiologist stood beside him on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the approaching station. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical bun, and her fingers tapped rhythmically against her data pad. Jake smiled slightly. "Let's just say I'm glad we brought you along. If I say something stupid, you can explain it as a quirk of human biology." Officer Sam Wright, their cultural liaison, laughed from his console. "That's our backup plan for everything. Blame human weirdness." The communications system chimed and a melodic voice filled the bridge. "Earth vessel Starlight, this is Galactic Council Station Alpha. You are cleared for docking at Arm 12. Welcome representatives of humanity." Jake nodded to his pilot. "Take us in nice and easy. Let's make a good first impression." The Starlight glided smoothly into the assigned docking bay. Through the viewport, Jake could see an assembly of beings waiting in the reception area. Even from a distance, their alien forms were striking, some tall and spindly, others short and bulky, with skin colors ranging from deep blue to metallic gold. "Remember the briefing?" Sam said quietly as they prepared to disembark. "Many species find direct eye contact aggressive. Some consider showing teeth a threat display. And for goodness sake, try not to touch anyone unless they initiate." Lisa adjusted her translator device. "Also, most species don't appreciate our sense of humor. They find it confusing." Jake nodded, straightening his back. "Got it. Be boring. Don't smile. Don't look at anyone. And don't touch." Diplomacy sounds fun. Both Lisa and Sam couldn't help but chuckle before composing themselves as the airlock doors opened. The delegation stepped out into the reception area, where 12 representatives from different species waited. At the front stood a tall, slender being with iridescent scales and 4 arms. It wore an elaborate robe that seemed to shift colors with each movement. "I am Zornthar, lead counselor of diplomatic relations," the alien said, its translator converting the series of clicks and whistles into English. "On behalf of the 12 founding species, I welcome humanity to Galactic Council space." Jake stepped forward and gave the practiced bow they had been told was universally acceptable. "Counselor Zornthar, I am Commander Jake Miller of Earth. These are my colleagues, Dr. Lisa Grant and Officer Sam Wright. We bring greetings from Earth and hope for friendship between our worlds." Zornthar's head tilted slightly. "Your journey has been long. Please follow us to the greeting hall where refreshments await. The Council is eager to learn more about your species." The humans followed the alien delegation through corridors of stunning beauty. The architecture seemed to blend organic and technological elements seamlessly, with walls that appeared to be living material housing complex technology. Other aliens of various species moved through the hallways, some pausing to stare at the humans with what Jake assumed was curiosity. In the greeting hall, tables were set with an array of foods and drinks. Jake noticed that each station was clearly marked with symbols that his translator identified as species names. "Your nutrition is at the station marked with your world symbol," Zornthar explained, gesturing to a table labeled with Earth's familiar globe icon. The next hour passed in a blur of introductions and carefully worded exchanges. Jake found himself speaking with a squat, amphibian-looking being named Grell, who represented a water world called Aquaris. "Your ship's design is interesting," Grell commented, blinking its large, moist eyes. "We notice you prioritize straight lines and angles where most species prefer curves and spirals. Our earliest vessels were built for function over beauty," Jake explained. "I suppose the tradition stuck." As they spoke, across the room, Sam was engaged in conversation with a furry, 6-limbed being. The alien was describing the complex social hierarchy of its homeworld when it made a small error in its translation. The result was an accidental double entendre that caught Sam off guard. He tried to maintain his composure but couldn't help letting out a short laugh. The reaction was immediate and unexpected. The room fell silent. Every alien head turned toward Sam, who froze mid-chuckle. Zorn-Thar moved quickly to Sam's side, its scales shifting to a deep purple color. "You find humor in Krellex's words?" The question sounded more confused than accusatory. Sam looked to Jake and Lisa for help. "I apologize if I caused offense. There was a small translation error that created an unintended meaning in our language." Lisa stepped forward. "In our culture, such linguistic mistakes sometimes create what we call humor, a cognitive recognition of unexpected patterns that triggers a physical response we call laughter." The aliens remained silent, studying the humans with new intensity. Jake felt the mood in the room shift from diplomatic welcome to something closer to scientific observation. "Fascinating," Zorn-Thar finally said. "And this occurs even when discussing serious matters?" "Sometimes, especially then," Jake admitted. "It's a way humans often relieve tension in difficult situations." The alien representatives began communicating among themselves in their native languages, too quick and complex for the translators to keep up. Jake exchanged concerned glances with his team. After several minutes, Zorn-Thar approached Jake directly. "Commander Miller, would you and Dr. Grant join me privately? I believe we have an important matter to discuss." Jake nodded, gesturing for Lisa to follow. They were led to a small meeting room off the main hall, where Zorn-Thar closed the door behind them. "I must be direct," the alien said, its scales now a mixture of blue and green. "Your species exhibits a trait combination we have never encountered before, and it has caused significant concern among the council members." "What trait combination?" Lisa asked, her scientific curiosity piqued. "You are apex predators," Zorn-Thar stated flatly. "Your physical capabilities, your historical development, and your cognitive processes all show clear predatory evolution. This is not unusual. Several council species evolved from hunters." Jake nodded cautiously. "That's correct. However," Zorn-Thar continued, "predatory species universally develop along predictable neurological paths. They do not develop what you call humor, the ability to find pleasure in pattern disruption. This trait is found exclusively in prey species, who must constantly be alert to environmental changes." "And humans have both," Lisa whispered, understanding dawning on her face. "Precisely," Zorn-Thar said. "You kill efficiently, yet you laugh. You are predators who think like prey. The combination makes your species unpredictable in ways that concern the Council deeply." Jake felt his spine stiffen. "Are you saying our application to join the Galactic Council is being rejected because we have a sense of humor?" Zorn-Thar's scales rippled. "Not rejected, Commander. But the Council requires time to study this anomaly. You will be granted temporary observer status while we determine whether this trait combination represents a danger to galactic stability." As they left the room, Jake whispered to Lisa, "Did we just get put on probation because we can tell jokes?" Lisa's expression was both worried and fascinated. "I think we just discovered that in the entire galaxy, only humans kill and laugh, and that terrifies them." Dr. Henry Daniels stared at the brain scan results displayed on the large screen in his lab. The neural patterns pulsed with activity, bright colors indicating connections between different regions of the human brain. 6 weeks had passed since the first contact mission, and Earth's scientists were working overtime to understand why humans were so unique in the galaxy. "Notice anything unusual?" Henry asked the alien scientist standing beside him. Mix was an Alturian, a species known for their advanced understanding of biology across the galaxy. The alien's pale blue skin seemed to glow under the lab lights, and its 4 eyes blinked in alternating pairs as it studied the scans. "Most fascinating," Mix replied, its translator converting the series of soft whistles into English. "The neural pathways connecting your amygdala and frontal cortex are unlike anything we've documented in other species." Henry nodded, running a hand through his graying hair. "We've compared these scans with those of the 12 council species you provided. The difference is clear." He tapped a command, and the screen split to show multiple brain patterns side by side. In predatory species, the connections strengthen in these areas. He pointed to regions associated with hunting and aggression. In prey species, these areas develop more complex networks. He indicated regions linked to pattern recognition and threat assessment, but humans, Mix observed, show strong development in both. And more importantly, Henry added, switching to a new set of scans, these regions here, associated with what we call humor, show connections to both the predator and prey neural networks. It's as if humor serves as a bridge between these otherwise opposing mental processes. Across the room, Henry's assistant Ben Allen was running a different experiment. 5 human volunteers sat watching comedy videos while their brain activity was monitored. Beside them, 3 alien observers from different council species watched the same content without showing any reaction. Nothing, Ben reported, turning to Henry. They recognize the pattern disruption in the jokes, but it doesn't trigger any pleasure response. Mix moved to examine the new data. In our evolutionary history, pattern disruption is always associated with danger. Your species has somehow converted a threat response into a pleasure response. It's unsettling, but potentially valuable, Henry argued. Humor allows humans to practice identifying threats in a safe context. We can mentally rehearse dangerous scenarios without experiencing actual trauma. Mix's upper eyes blinked rapidly, a sign of deep thought among Alturians. Perhaps this is why your species advanced so quickly despite your physical limitations. You can simulate and adapt to threats more efficiently than pure predators or prey. In the observation room adjacent to the lab, Commander Jake Miller watched through a one-way window. Beside him stood Zornthar, who had traveled to Earth as the Council's special envoy. Your scientist makes an interesting case, Zornthar said, scales shifting to a thoughtful blue hue. But many Council members remain concerned. In all our records, no species with your combination of traits has ever joined galactic society. Jake frowned. With respect, that sounds like prejudice rather than science. Not prejudice, caution, Zornthar corrected. Consider the implications. A species that can kill efficiently like a predator, yet thinks unpredictably like prey, and uses humor to imagine countless scenarios. Such a species could be impossible to predict or contain if they became hostile. Or we could be excellent at identifying threats before they develop, Jake countered. Our humor gives us cognitive flexibility. We can see problems from multiple angles. Before Zornthar could respond, Jake's communication device buzzed with an urgent message. "Excuse me," he said, stepping away to read it. The message was from Lisa, who had remained on the council station with Sam as Earth's representatives. It was brief, but alarming. Council in crisis. Several species demanding human quarantine. Need evidence humans aren't a threat. Soon. Jake returned to Zornthar, his expression serious. It seems some of your colleagues have already decided we're dangerous. Zornthar's scales darkened. The Vreska Dominion has been particularly vocal. They are an ancient predator species who believe that any unpredictable element threatens galactic stability. And humans are very unpredictable, Jake said with a grim smile. Indeed, the Vreska representative has submitted formal evidence that human humor often centers around death, violence, and misfortune, topics that no other species would find pleasurable. Jake sighed. Dark humor doesn't mean we enjoy suffering, it's how we process fear and anxiety. I understand this, Zornthar said, but many council species do not. To them, laughing about death suggests you do not take it seriously. We take it very seriously, Jake said quietly. That's why we joke about it, to make it less frightening. Back in the lab, Henry was showing Mix a series of historical documents. Human humor has evolved alongside our technology and social structures, he explained. Early humor was simple and often cruel, but as our empathy developed, so did our humor. It became more complex, more tied to shared understanding. Mix studied the examples. Yet even your most sophisticated humor contains this element of, what do you call it? The punchline? The moment of surprise or misdirection? Exactly, Henry said, excitement in his voice. And that's the same pattern as hunting strategy. Set up, misdirection, strike. The cognitive structures for recognizing humor and planning a hunt are nearly identical, which again suggests humans are natural predators who have adapted prey thinking patterns. Mix concluded, a biological anomaly. In another part of the research complex, Ben was conducting interviews with aliens from each council species, trying to explain different types of human jokes. So the chicken crosses the road, he explained patiently to a confused Palaxian whose insect-like features remained utterly still. Why would this be humorous? The alien asked. The chicken's motivation for road crossing seems irrelevant. Tried again. The humor comes from expecting an interesting reason, but getting a completely obvious answer instead. The alien's antennae twitched. So the humor derives from disappointment? Not exactly, Ben sighed. It's about the unexpected twist. Meanwhile, at the Galactic Council station, Lisa and Sam were facing increasingly hostile questions from representatives of various species. Is it true? Demanded the Vreska representative, a large reptilian being with sharp teeth and armored skin, that humans create entertainment simulating war and death? We create fiction, Lisa explained carefully. Stories that explore different scenarios, including difficult ones. And you find this pleasurable? The Vreska pressed. We find it educational, Sam interjected. It helps us understand ourselves better. The Vreska made a dismissive gesture. A species that plays with death cannot be trusted with the powers of full council membership. I move to quarantine Earth until we can be certain they pose no threat. As Lisa began to protest, her communication device lit up with a message from Jake. Tell them we've discovered something important. The very trait they fear may be humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy. Stall for time, we're bringing proof. Lisa and Sam hurried through the gleaming corridors of the Galactic Council station. The emergency alarms blared overhead, and beings of various species rushed past them, some wounded, others helping to evacuate. What exactly happened? Sam asked, his voice barely audible over the alarms. According to reports, a Vreska military faction stormed the main council chamber, Lisa replied, checking her datapad. They're demanding territorial concessions and threatening to execute hostages if their demands aren't met. The attack had begun less than an hour ago, during what should have been a routine council session. Sam and Lisa had been in their temporary quarters preparing for another day of defending humanity's application for membership, when the alarm sounded. Any word from Jake? Sam asked. Lisa shook her head. Communications are jammed. The Vreska know what they're doing. They turned a corner and nearly collided with a group of armed security officers, members of the Palaxian species whose insect-like appearance belied their gentle nature. The lead officer raised a limb. Humans, this section is restricted. Return to your quarters for your safety. We're Earth representatives, Lisa explained. We might be able to help. The Palaxian's compound eyes studied them. How could your species help in this crisis? Sam stepped forward. The very traits your council finds concerning might be useful now. Humans are good at unpredictable situations. After a moment's hesitation, the officer nodded. Come, but stay behind us. They followed the security team to a command post set up in a side chamber. Various screens showed different areas of the station, including the council chamber where about 30 hostages sat under the watch of armed Vreska soldiers. The attackers were tall, heavily muscled reptilians with natural armor plating and sharp teeth. Their movements were swift and precise, displaying the predatory efficiency their species was known for. A blue-skinned Alturian officer was coordinating the response. The situation is grim, he explained when Lisa asked for details. The Vreska have control of life support systems for the entire diplomatic wing. They've given us 6 hours to agree to their demands, or they will begin executing hostages. What are their demands? Sam asked. Control of 3 disputed star systems, release of Vreska prisoners, and recognition of their territorial claims in the Outer Rim. Lisa studied the screens. Have you tried negotiating? The Vreska do not negotiate once they've committed to action, the Alturian replied. It is not their way. They see it as weakness. Sam moved closer to one of the screens, examining the layout of the station. What about the maintenance tunnels? Could a small team get in that way? Too obvious. The Vreska have blockaded all known entry points. Lisa joined Sam at the screen. Known entry points, she repeated thoughtfully. But what about unknown ones? Just then, a new alarm sounded, and one of the Palaxian officers called out. Incoming. Ship requesting emergency docking. The Alturian commander moved quickly to a communications panel. Unidentified vessel. This station is under lockdown. All approaches are prohibited. The screen flickered, and Commander Jake Miller's face appeared. This is Earth Vessel Starlight responding to emergency protocols. We have a specialist team aboard. The Alturian hesitated, then nodded to an officer who activated the docking. Controls. Bay 14 is clear, but I warn you, Commander, the situation here is beyond conventional response. Jake's smile was grim. Conventional isn't really our style anyway. 30 minutes later, Jake and a small team from Earth joined Lisa and Sam in the command post. With him were Dr. Henry Daniels and 3 Earth Coalition security officers with specialized training. You brought a scientist to a hostage crisis? The Alturian commander asked skeptically. Henry's not just any scientist, Jake replied. And this isn't just any crisis. Henry had already begun studying the station schematics. The Vreska are textbook predators, correct? Their attack strategies follow evolutionary hunting patterns? The Alturian nodded. Precisely. Which makes them deadly effective, but also predictable, Jake finished. That's what we're counting on. Jake gathered his team around a display table and outlined his plan. The Vreska expect a frontal rescue attempt, so all obvious routes are heavily guarded, but Henry has identified a maintenance shaft that was converted during the station's last upgrade. It doesn't appear on current schematics. How did you discover it? The Palaxian security chief asked. Henry smiled. Humor again. I noticed a pattern discrepancy in the power distribution logs. It was like a joke. The setup suggested one thing, but the reality was different. But even if you reach the council chamber, you'll be outnumbered, the Alturian pointed out. That's where human unpredictability comes in, Jake said. We don't need to defeat them directly. We just need to disrupt their pattern long enough to evacuate the hostages. As they finalized the details, Sam worked on a different problem. Using his skills as a cultural liaison, he began hacking into the station's communication system. What are you doing? Lisa asked quietly. The Vreska communicate using tight beam transmissions on specific frequencies, Sam explained. If I can get into their system, I might be able to create some confusion. He smiled mischievously, and maybe add a little humor to their day. You're going to joke with hostage takers? Lisa asked incredulously. Not joke exactly, Sam replied, fingers moving quickly over his device. But I am going to use our unique human talent for finding patterns and then disrupting them. An hour later, the plan was in motion. Jake and his security team, along with Henry, entered the hidden maintenance shaft while Sam stayed in the command center, working on communications. Lisa joined a medical team preparing to receive potential casualties. As Jake led his team through the narrow passage, Henry whispered, You know, this reminds me of that old joke about the priest, the rabbi, and the monk hiding in a wine cellar. One of the security officers stifled a laugh. Is now really the time for jokes, Doc? Actually, yes, Jake replied softly. Remember, what makes us dangerous to the Vreska is that we can find humor even in deadly situations. It keeps us flexible. They reached a junction point where the shaft divided. According to the schematics, both paths lead to the council chamber. The left route is more direct but emerges in plain sight. The right is longer but lets us out behind the speaker's podium. So, obvious approach or sneaky approach, one of the officers summarized. The Vreska would expect an attacking force to take the hidden route. Jake nodded. Which is why we're going to do something very human. We're taking both. He divided the team, sending Henry and one officer to the right, while he and the other officer took the left path. When this is over, Henry said with a small smile, the punchline will be that the most feared trait of humanity saved the council. Let's hope they appreciate the irony, Jake replied, checking his non-lethal stun weapon. Sam, are you ready with the communication disruption? Through their earpieces, Sam's voice came clearly. Ready. Operation Punchline commencing in 3 minutes. Operation Punchline? One of the officers questioned. Jake grinned in the dimly lit tunnel. Well, we are the deadliest species with a punchline, might as well embrace it. The council chamber, normally a place of dignified debate, had transformed into a tense battlefield. 23 Vreska soldiers stood guard over the hostages, their scaled bodies alert and weapons ready. The lead Vreska, Commander Srak, paced before the central podium, occasionally barking orders to his troops in their harsh, clicking language. Sam's voice came through Jake's earpiece. I'm in their communication system. Ready when you are. Do it, Jake whispered from his position in the maintenance shaft. In the command center, Sam activated his program. Suddenly, the Vreska communication devices erupted with conflicting orders, false alarms, and random fragments of intercepted conversations. The effect was immediate. The soldiers looked at each other in confusion, some moving toward exits while others tightened their formation around the hostages. Phase 1 complete, Sam reported. Their command structure is disrupted. Jake watched, through a small vent as Commander Srek tried to restore order, roaring commands that contradicted the false messages still pouring through their communication devices. The confusion was spreading exactly as planned. Henry, are you in position? Jake asked quietly. Ready, came the scientist's reply from the other side of the chamber. I can access the environmental controls from here. Begin Phase 2, Jake ordered. Henry tapped commands into his device. Throughout the council chamber, the lighting began to flicker in an irregular pattern. At the same time, the temperature regulation system activated, creating pockets of cold and warm air that shifted unpredictably. What is this? One of the Vreska soldiers hissed, spinning around to locate the source of the disturbance. Commander Srak snarled. Engineering failure. Ignore it. Focus on the hostages. But the soldiers were finding it difficult to ignore. The lighting and temperature changes weren't random. They had been carefully calibrated by Henry to target specific weaknesses in Vreska biology. As reptilian creatures, they were sensitive to temperature fluctuations. The irregular light patterns interfered with their vision, which was adapted to pick up movement. Now for the punchline, Jake said, giving the signal to his team. All at once, 3 things happened. Henry released a harmless but pungent chemical into the chamber's air circulation system, a scent that Vreska instinctively associated with danger. Sam broadcast a sound frequency through the station's emergency system that resembled the mating call of the Vreska's ancient predators, and Jake's team rolled small devices into the chamber that began projecting holographic images of movement in the soldiers' peripheral vision. The combination created chaos. The Vreska soldiers, despite their training and discipline, couldn't ignore the instinctive responses triggered by these stimuli. Some ducked for cover, others fired wildly at the holographic movements, while a few simply froze in primitive fear response. In that moment of confusion, Jake and his team burst into the chamber from both entry points. Armed with non-lethal stun weapons, they moved with practiced efficiency, targeting the most disoriented Vreska soldiers first. This way, Jake called to the hostages, gesturing toward the maintenance shaft. Quickly, the council members didn't need to be told twice. As Jake and his team provided cover, the hostages rushed toward the exit. Lisa waited inside the shaft, helping the various alien species navigate the narrow passage. Commander Srak, however, recovered quickly from the initial shock. With a roar of rage, he charged toward Jake, moving faster than seemed possible for a creature of his size. The leader's mine, Jake called to his team. Get the rest of the hostages out. As Srak lunged forward, Jake sidestepped in a move that would have been impossible to predict. The Vreska commander crashed into a council table, splintering it with his massive body. You fight strangely, human, Srak growled, rising quickly. No pattern. Jake circled cautiously. That's kind of our specialty. The Vreska lunged again, this time anticipating Jake's evasion. His clawed hand caught Jake's uniform, tearing through the fabric and drawing blood. Jake winced but maintained his focus. You know the difference between humans and Vreska? He asked, moving again as Srak prepared another attack. The question caught the commander off guard. What? Vreska never learned to laugh at themselves, Jake said, pressing a concealed button on his wrist device. Instantly, the lights in the chamber flashed in a specific sequence that Henry had calculated would temporarily overload Vreska visual receptors. Srak roared in pain, covering his eyes with one hand while swinging blindly with the other. Jake seized the moment, firing his stun weapon at point-blank range. The Vreska commander collapsed, his massive body hitting the floor with a thud that echoed through the chamber. All hostages secured, Lisa reported through the communication system. Medical team is attending to injuries. What about Jake? Sam asked anxiously. Before Lisa could respond, Jake's voice came through. I'm fine. A few scratches. All Vreska forces neutralized or contained. 3 hours later, the human team gathered in a conference room with Zornthar and several high-ranking council members. The mood was subdued but appreciative. Your intervention was most effective, Zornthar acknowledged, scales shimmering with a mix of colors that indicated complex emotions. The council owes you a debt of gratitude. We were just doing what humans do, Jake replied modestly, wincing slightly as a medical technician treated the claw marks on his shoulder. And that is precisely what we wish to discuss, said a Palaxian representative, stepping forward. We observed your rescue operation with great interest. You used no lethal force despite the danger. And your strategy, added an Alturian counselor. It was unlike anything in our tactical databases. Henry smiled from his seat. That's because it wasn't based on conventional tactical thinking. It was based on humor. Explain, Zornthar requested. Humor works by setting up an expected pattern, then delivering something unexpected. The punchline, Henry explained. We applied the same principle to combat. We analyzed the Vreska's expected responses, then deliberately violated those patterns. The same neural pathway that lets us appreciate a good joke, Jake added. Lets us think outside conventional battle strategies. Sam joined in. And because we can find humor even in dangerous situations, we stayed calm and adaptable when things didn't go exactly as planned. Zornthar's scales settled into a thoughtful blue color. For generations, the Council has viewed your species' combination of traits as potentially dangerous. Today, we saw those same traits used to save lives. Perhaps, suggested a smaller, furred counselor who had been silent until now, what we feared as a weapon could also be a shield. Lisa nodded. Humans don't laugh because we take death lightly. We laugh because we understand its seriousness all too well. Humor is how we cope with the darkest aspects of existence. And when used properly, Jake added, it makes us better at protecting others, not more likely to harm them. Zornthar looked at each of the humans in turn, then made a formal gesture with all 4 arms. The Council will reconvene tomorrow to discuss Earth's application. I believe today's events will significantly influence our deliberations. As the counselors filed out, Sam turned to Jake with a slight smile. So, our unique ability to kill efficiently and laugh about it might actually get us accepted into the galactic community? Ironic, isn't it? Jake replied. Almost like a cosmic joke. And what's the punchline? Lisa asked. Henry's eyes twinkled. That the very thing they feared about us might be what they needed most. 6 months after the hostage crisis, the grand ceremony hall of the Galactic Council Station glowed with soft, multicolored lights. Representatives from over 200 worlds filled the space, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry of galactic life. At the center of the hall stood a simple platform where Zornthar waited with the 12 founding members of the Council. Commander Jake Miller adjusted his formal uniform as he prepared to lead the Earth delegation forward. Beside him, Lisa and Sam looked equally nervous and proud. Ready for this? Jake asked quietly. Lisa nodded. 6 months of debate and here we are. Earth is joining the Galactic Council. Not just joining, Sam added. We're being given special status. The music changed, signaling the start of the ceremony. Jake led his team forward through the parted crowd. As they walked, he noticed many aliens watching them with what he now recognized as curiosity rather than fear. When they reached the platform, Zornthar stepped forward, scales shimmering in ceremonial colors. "Representatives of Earth," the alien diplomat began, voice carrying through the hall's perfect acoustics. "Today marks a historic moment for the Galactic Council. For the first time, we welcome a species that challenged our most basic assumptions about sentient life." Jake bowed slightly as protocol demanded. "6 months ago," Zornthar continued, "many among us feared the unique traits of humanity. We saw danger in your combination of predatory efficiency and what you call humor. We worried that a species that could kill and laugh might bring chaos to our ordered galaxy." Murmurs rippled through the assembled crowd. "Today we recognize that our fear was based on misunderstanding. What we failed to see was that human humor is not a sign of callousness toward death and violence, but rather a sophisticated response to it. It is not a weakness in your empathy, but an extension of it." Zornthar gestured, and a holographic display appeared above the platform, showing brain scans that Henry had provided during the months of scientific exchange. Human neurological studies have revealed that the same pathways that allow you to appreciate humor also enable you to understand perspectives different from your own. Your jokes require you to see the world through others' eyes, to anticipate their expectations, and then to playfully subvert them. This is the foundation of empathy. The display changed to show footage from the hostage rescue, carefully edited, to highlight the non-lethal tactics the human team had employed. When faced with violence, you responded not with greater violence, but with creative disruption. You demonstrated that the very trait we feared, your ability to find unexpected patterns, could be used to preserve life rather than take it. Zornthar extended all 4 arms in a formal gesture. "It is therefore my honor, on behalf of the Galactic Council, to welcome Earth as our newest member world, with special status as interspecies mediators." Jake stepped forward to accept the ceremonial orb that symbolized council membership. As he did, he found himself unexpectedly moved. 6 months of diplomatic work, scientific exchange, and cultural sharing had built to this moment. "On behalf of Earth and humanity, we accept this honor with gratitude and humility," Jake said, his voice steady despite his emotions. "We look forward to contributing our unique perspective to galactic society." The ceremony continued with various formalities, but the most surprising moment came near the end. Zornthar approached Jake privately while the crowd mingled. "Commander Miller, the Council has decided to create a new position we believe will strengthen interspecies relations. We would like to establish an office of Diplomatic Humor Advisor." Jake blinked in surprise. "You want to officially incorporate humor into diplomacy?" "Indeed," Zornthar replied. "Our research with your scientists has shown that what you call icebreaker jokes can significantly reduce tension in negotiations. We would like Officer Wright to head this initiative if he is willing." When Jake shared the news with Sam, the cultural liaison was stunned. "They want me to teach aliens how to tell jokes?" "Not exactly," Jake explained. "They want you to help them understand how humor can bridge different perspectives. It's about communication, not comedy." Meanwhile, Lisa had her own news to share. "The Council has approved my proposal for the Interspecies Cognitive Research Institute. We'll study how different species process information and emotion, with a focus on developing translator algorithms that can convey humor across species barriers." "Dr. Daniels must be thrilled," Jake said. Lisa nodded. "He's already working with teams from 6 different worlds. They're discovering that while other species don't naturally develop humor, many can learn to recognize and even appreciate it with proper cultural context." The reception following the ceremony stretched into the night. Jake found himself surrounded by curious aliens asking about Earth customs, human history, and especially human jokes. He did his best to explain, though many concepts simply didn't translate. Near the end of the evening, Jake stood at a viewing window looking out at the stars. Zornthar joined him silently. "Thinking deep thoughts, Commander?" the alien asked after a comfortable silence. "Just reflecting on irony," Jake replied. 6 months ago, you told me our ability to kill efficiently and laugh about death made us potentially the deadliest species in the galaxy. And I was not wrong," Zornthar said. "But I failed to see the full picture. Your capacity for violence is matched by your capacity for empathy. Your predatory instincts are balanced by your ability to see beyond them. Jake smiled slightly. In our history, we often feared our own nature. We worried that our talent for violence would lead to our extinction. Yet here you are, Zornthar observed, using those same traits to forge peace. That's the punchline, Jake said softly. What makes us dangerous also makes us kind. The same mind that can devise a weapon can also imagine a world without weapons. Across the reception hall, Jake could see Sam attempting to explain a knock-knock joke to a confused group of Palaxians. Nearby, Lisa and Henry were deep in conversation with scientists from various worlds, their animated gestures suggesting new discoveries being shared. You know, Jake said thoughtfully, there's an old Earth saying, tragedy plus time equals comedy. Maybe that's what happened with our species. We faced our tragic potential for destruction, and over time, we learned to transform it into something better. Zornthar's scales shifted to a color Jake had never seen before. Perhaps that is the greatest joke of all, that the universe's deadliest predator would evolve to become its most dedicated peacemaker. Now you're getting it, Jake said with a genuine laugh. That's exactly the kind of cosmic irony humans appreciate. As the celebration continued around them, representatives from formerly hostile species attempted to share jokes with each other, creating a strange but hopeful symphony of misunderstandings and occasional breakthroughs. Jake watched it all with a sense of pride and wonder. The deadliest species with a punchline had found its place in the galaxy, not despite its unique traits, but because of them. Humanity's ability to find humor in darkness, to laugh in the face of danger, and to see patterns where others saw only chaos had become not a threat, but a gift to the stars.